A bicycle trip on the Katy Trail in one of Missouri's most scenic countrysides is a trip through railroad history. The Katy Trail is a multi-use bicycle trail that used to be the MKT railroad line connecting Missouri, Kansas, and Texas. The MKT was established in 1870. Over the years, segments were slowly abandoned until 1987, when the property was acquired by the Missouri State Parks and construction of the Katy Trail began. The National Trail System Act of 1968 made conversion of the corridor from a railroad to a trail possible. 165 miles of the Katy Trail State Park has been designated an official segment of the Lewis and Clark Historic Trail, and the trail from St. Charles to Boonville as part of the American Discovery Trail. The Katy from the east starts at the extinct town of Machens in the middle of pretty much nowhere and makes its way down the Field Line Trail 12 miles to St. Charles. St. Charles, a town of 65,000 residents and a suburb of St. Louis, was founded 250 years ago, making it the third oldest city in Missouri and the first capital prior to Jefferson City. It was considered the last civilized stop by the Lewis and Clark expedition. Just a few miles down the trail is Weldon Spring. For 5 miles, the trail passes through the heavily wooded Weldon Spring Conservation Area, along the edge of the Missouri River and the rugged limestone cliffs. Weldon Spring is also famous as the former site of the largest explosive factory in America, which once stood on the land just south of Weldon Spring. 10 years later, that same property was occupied by a plant that refined uranium for Cold War nuclear bombs. The site was abandoned in the late 60s, and 20 years later, when the EPA showed up, what they found was a huge mess of nuclear waste. The solution? To entomb it where it was inside a man-made mini-mountain, a sort of ancient Mayan tomb. Today, you can climb it as a tourist attraction. Its summit is the highest point in St. Charles County. They call it the Nuclear Waste Trail. Exploring Missouri's wine country is a cinch on the Katy Trail. Thanks to Missouri's German immigrant communities, this section was once the second largest wine-producing region in America. The trail between Rockport and Defiance might be the most scenic stretch of wine country in the state, and there's no better way to see it than biking the Katy. As rich as the trail is in its history, it's even richer in nature's critters. One can spot scores of beautiful and vocal songbirds, geese, ducks, woodpeckers, hawks, the great blue heron, turkeys, and even the national bird, the bald eagle. The Katy Trail provides the life source for many fuzzy and furry friends, and a few variety of snakes as well. Most non-threatening, of course. Along the trail, you'll also find animals introduced to the area by humans. The Katy will take you past some of the most beautiful countryside in America. Down the Missouri River, with bluffs high on either side, hillsides lined with vineyards, through Weldon Springs protected lands, past towns and small unincorporated communities overflowing with craft shops, wineries, and memorabilia of old railroad days gone by. Cross the Missouri River, through the flatlands, farms, and meadows of the beautiful state of Missouri. History abounds through the rail trails of the Katy. From the gateway of St. Louis, explorers forged their way along what would become the MKT Railroad and eventually being the Katy Trail. What a jewel this is in the middle of this great country. For sure, a jewel not to be missed. Come, ride to Katy.